So Jessica, in this video I'll be teaching you guys how to make this lovely wrap skirt right here on the screen. And this skirt was highly inspired by this video right here, and I got this video from Pinterest. If it's something you're interested in learning, make sure to keep on watching. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to subscribe. And without any further ado, let's get into the video today. For my fabric, I have 2.5 yards of fabric here, but the only thing is the length has already been reduced. It's no longer 60 inches. I'm left with exactly 40 inches of length, and if you can tell, this used to be like another dress before I decided to make a skirt out of it, and that is why the volume of mine is not as much as the inspiration. So you're going to fold your fabric to about 14 inches thereabouts, and you're going to rule out your starting line just as seen. Right on that starting line, you're going to place 1 inch or 2 inches on it, which is going to be your waistband. And then I marked 9 inches, which is my hip line, and then I made a straight line across that point. I'll place 1 inch outside of the starting line again, and then I'm going to mark to the full length of the top part of the skirt, of which I am using 16 inches, and I'm going to rule out that line there, which indicates that part to be my full length. So moving on to the starting line, which is also my waistline, I'm going to take my dart line, and my dart line is my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. Mine gives me 4. So where I have that 4, I'm going to mark downwards 6 inches. This is the back piece. Yes, we are cutting the back piece. So the dart of the back piece is expected to be longer than that of the front piece, but it still shouldn't get to your hip line. So I marked 6 inches downwards, and I made sure it was at the width of that 4 inches. So I'll rule out a straight line there, and right on the starting line, I marked half an inch apart from the dart line that we have there. On both sides, I marked half an inch, and then I connected it in a slanted form to meet the 6 inches that we marked there. So this is what your dart should look like. Now I'm going to take my round waist measurement divided by 4, after which I'm going to replace that dart measurement in that area there, which is 1 inch, and then I'm going to add my sewing allowance, which is 1 inch. I'll move on to the hip line. I'll take my round hip measurement divided by 4, and I'm going to mark it right there. But now I decided to add half an inch, like quarter of an inch, not up to half of an inch. I decided to add quarter of an inch for ease. Okay, I don't want the hip to be my exact measurements. Then I went ahead to add 1 inch for sewing allowance. So I'm going to take the whole measurement of what we have in that hip area there, and I'll bring it to the full length. So we're going to connect these lines together. This is basically everything we need for drafting the back piece. After cutting the skirt out, I made sure to leave half an inch on the top part and on the lower part. So I'm going to notch the dart area, which is very important. Our back piece is on fold, and we're also going to use this back piece as a template to cut the front piece as well. So now that we have the back piece, we are going to bring back our fabric that is on fold, and we're going to place this back piece on it, and then we are going to cut exactly what we have right there, and also notch on the dart again so that it is transferred to the new piece. So this is going to be the front piece, right? But this front piece is supposed to be wrapped. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick from one end of the waistline, and we're going to connect a slanted line straight to meet the other end of the skirt, just as you can see in this video. Just in case my words fail me, we are going to cut that part out, and we are going to trash out the lower part because it will no longer be needed. Remember, the dart has been transferred when I did the notching earlier. So I'll just place it on the skirt so you can see. You can tell that we still need one more piece to have the skirt complete, which is the front piece. So we are going to duplicate that front piece. Let's say your fabric is a fabric that there's a huge difference between the good and the wrong face. Make sure that you're placing this your front piece right face facing the right face before you cut it. My fabric has no difference between the good and the wrong face, so I can cut it anyhow I want. But just in case, make sure to place yours right face facing the right face before you cut it out. So now I have that. I'm going to start working on my dart. First thing I did was to shade up the whole dart space, and then I folded back my skirt, and then I'm going to hit my hand on it. It's going to dust the chalk to the other face of the fabric, and that way my dart lines will be very clear and very accurate to sew. So over to sewing the darts. This is basically it. While I'm sewing, I'm going to tighten up my stitch because I am not going to back stitch, and I'm just going to sew and pull the skirt out. So after sewing the darts, I ironed it, and that is why it's looking this clean. Now we are going to move on to sewing the darts of the front piece. I'm going to show you it's one of them. So from that point that I notched, I marked 4 inches downwards. Remember, we use 6 inches for the length of the dart of the back piece. The front dart should be 4 inches long, and that's because your front dart should be shorter than your back dart. So now I'm still going to repeat the same process. After shading it, I will fold down the fabric and I will dust it on it so I can be able to sew up the dart. You're going to sew the darts for both the front skirt pieces. And now that we're ready, of course, iron down your dart. Now we are going to start shaping the skirt. We'll place the front piece on the back piece, right face facing each other. Now we can tell that the fabric has a difference between the right and the wrong face, and that's because we've sewn the dart, so we know which is the right and the wrong face. So after sewing up the 1 inch that I added for seam allowance, I went ahead to open up the seam with my hot iron, and this is what everything is looking like so far. Now we are going to move over to cutting out the waistband of the skirt. So I'm going to open up the skirt and I'm going to take the measurement of the whole waist area that we have around there, which is going to be bigger than the regular waist. I have 53, so it means my band should be times 2 bigger than this measurement. So I'm going to be cutting my band to at least 100 or even 120 if possible. So first thing I did was to trim off this rough edge. As you can tell, I told you I used this fabric for another dress entirely before I decided to use it for this. So for my waistband, I'm going to mark it to be 3 inches wide, so that by the time I fold it, I will be left with 1.5 inch. 1 inch will be for the waistband and a half inch will be the sewing allowance. So after cutting this band, I measured it and it was like 59, almost 60 inches. So I still went ahead to cut out an exact band again because I want this to be very, very long. And if you don't want yours to be long, it's fine, but trust me, a longer band is better. So after cutting the band out, I'm going to join the 2 of them together just as seen. So that way I have like a really long band. So now that I've joined it together, I'm going to bring back this skirt. I'm going to fold the skirt into 2 and I'm going to notch the midpoint of the skirt. And that's because I want the midpoint to be aligned with the area where the band has like a joining. So now we are going to start pinning the band to the waistline of the skirt. Mind you, we are not sewing the band to the skirt now, but we need this particular method here because this method here is going to enable us get the band accurately on the skirt. So once I pin it and get to this edge right here, I'm going to now notch the band, not the skirt, okay? Make sure to notch only the band. And after doing that, I'll also do the same thing to the other side of the skirt. After notching, we are going to move on, continue pinning the band to the waistline, and then we are going to notch where the band ends along the skirt, which is right here. So once we are done doing that, we are going to start removing the pins from the skirt because like I said, we are not sewing the band to the skirt yet. We just need this method for accuracy. So we are going to remove the pins and we're going to focus on the band. So from where this band was notched, the area where the band is not going to be fitted to the skirt, we are going to turn it. So I'm just going to use my pins to secure it so you understand what I mean by turning it. So we are going to sew it right face facing each other, then we'll flip it over to the right face. So after sewing, this is what it looks like, and I'm going to pull it out to the right face. So any part of this band that is not sewn, just know that that is the part that will be sewn to the skirt. And as you can see, I have already ironed the band. So now I'm going to start repinning this band to the skirt, but this time around I'm going to open up the band. It will no longer be on fold, so I'll just pin it there and I'll just pin it all through and sew only one side of the band to the skirt. It's currently blur and I had no idea it was blur earlier, but you will see clearly on my sewing machine what everything looks like. So after pinning it, we'll proceed to start sewing it. This is what it looks like. Yes, so you can see that the parts where I notched outside has already been folded, so the remaining parts now is going to be attached to the skirt. So right after sewing, we are going to start removing the pins because we no longer need them there, because now we already know
where to work on exactly. So now we are going to now come back to this place here, right? We are going to now fold in everything, including the sewing allowance, inside, and we're going to fold the other side of the band on top. You'll see that everything will look very, very neat right here. And we're going to start top stitching. Okay, so you top stitch, and I did this so that I can top stitch from the good face of the fabric, so that I know it is not looking any type of way on the good face. So far this is what it is looking like. This is a close-up of what it's looking like. Everything will come out very clean. So long as you ironed your band earlier, everything will look very neat and beautiful. So after I've attached the band, we are going to move over to the last step, which is adding the gathers to the skirt. You can decide to make a flay, but because I have limited fabric, I decided to go for the gathered method. I also saw a video where someone just made a normal flay. So now I'm going to fold the remaining piece of my fabric, and I'm just going to divide it into two. And you can tell that because of my limited fabric, the length of my skirt was not, full length like the inspiration. I'll still put the video of the inspiration right here on the screen. So whatever I had here, I just had to manage it. Now I'm going to join these two pieces together so it is long enough. And after I had finished joining it, I just folded it together like this, and I'm going to create a curve from one side, okay, from the open side. And this curve, you don't really need a measurement for it. Just use your free hand to freestyle a nice curve as seen that will go in line with how your skirt shape is already. So now that we have the curve, we are going to now make gathers on the skirt. So I made a very single straight loose stitch, and I'm going to start pulling the thread. And as I'm pulling the thread, you see this fabric is gathering up, and you just continue like that and gather up the whole skirt. So as you're gathering, make sure to also gather from the other side as well, so that everything is evenly gathered, everything is nice and clean, and you can adjust from either the left or the right side. If I'm going to be honest, gathering up your skirt might take up your time. I mean, this method of gathering where you have to pull it might take your time, but this is the best method of gathering your skirt. And the reason why is because you can always readjust your gathers back, so long as you do not cut your thread after putting your gather. So now we're going to bring back the top part of the skirt, and we're going to now attach these gathers to the base of the top part of the skirt. Now first you're going to determine which side of your skirt is going inwards, okay? So this is the part that is going inwards, and I don't want my gathers to get to that upper part so that it is not too bulky on that side. So my gathers will definitely start from the dart area of that side that is going inside, okay? From the first dart area there. I don't want it to get to that side. So you guys just watch, right? As I'm adjusting the gathers on the skirt, you will see that it's not enough. So now I'm going to start using my hand to adjust the gathers again. This is why I love using gathers. So now I'll go ahead and I'm going to start sewing the skirts to the gathers that we've already made. This is bringing us very close to the end. Basically this is the end, but I'm just still going to give you guys a quick tip. Something you have to do after you sew up your gathers. You're not supposed to just leave it like that. There is still one method that is very important, and this is the method. So after you are done sewing, you see the thread you used to pull your gathers, make sure to cut it out. If you don't cut it out and anything happens to pull your skirt, your whole skirt is going to squeeze up. So it's a very important tip. This brings us to the end of this video. I hope you learned something new. If you did, make sure to give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, because that will help you to recommend this channel to other people. And that being said, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.